What's good, people? This is episode 200. Can you believe I made it to 200? And have I got a treat for you guys? That guy's Randy, right there. And I'm Jason DeBillius. That's my homie Miranda. Welcome back, girl. Hi. Buckle up, people. The episode starts right now.
Zach, I hope you bet on me this time. I don't bet on apes, Rolo. I bet on horses.
Perfect. It's good, Randy.
Jason, really wonderful to be here with you, and thank you very much for kind of putting me in a position to be with your 200th telecast. I can't imagine speaking that many times to all the different important people around the world about our game that we love.
Yeah, we before the podcast, we went across a list of names of familiar faces, old and new. I mentioned, remember I mentioned Ruth Nelson?
Of course.
Yeah, she's, where'd you meet Ruth?
I did meet her at an event in CSUN some years ago, and needless to say, somebody came up to me and introduced me to her. As we all get older, we're not as recognizable as we once were, but Ruth, certainly a person that should be mentioned and recognized of her value to the indoor women's game and what she did for the U.S. team.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. And Flo Hyman, one of the better players in the history of the game. I think she played for University of Houston. How do you get that team to the Elite Eight and in this, that cesspool of West Coast talent, right?
So, Jason, let me start off with
Please, go ahead.
That I have been so lucky in my life to be rubbing shoulders with the greatest of our game that has ever played the game, and Flo Hyman was one of them. In fact, I got to play against her on a women's net indoors, and it was incredible. So we put together a team. It was kind of an all-star studded team. Bill Walton got on there, Sinjin, myself, Andrew Smith, Dane Selznick. I think maybe even Gene was there. But we ended up playing the U.S. national team. I'd say probably 78, something like that. I was like 17, 18 years old, and I'll never forget Flo Hyman, the ability that she had to put that ball away. It was unbelievable. And I was kind of known for my blocking, and it was unbelievable to try to go and block her on a women's net. She would pace that ball around and get that ball down, and needless to say, along with the rest of the team, and it'd be an error not to bring up the rest of the team because they were the first women's team that really kind of got a start in U.S. volleyball that was a powerhouse, and certainly Flo Hyman fit that bill to a T.
When I saw Flo Hyman, I'm like, which player did we steal from the Cuba national team? She was like a king-size version of Marlowe Luis. I don't know if you go far as back as that 92 team.
Of course.
Was just absolutely amazing.
And who you're referring to is probably one of the best women volleyball players entirely and through the entire world. She has YouTube videos that are impressive to watch, and I don't think that there's any one woman that has anything over her.
Yeah.
She was incredible, boy.
Yeah, actually, let's stay there for a little bit. You could, Miranda, if you want, you can pull up a YouTube video of just Cuba national team. So, while we're talking about that, reminding our audience, Marlowe Luis played for the 92 team, 96 team, and the 2000 team, the three-peat champions, Cuba. And they did have some close matches, the 5 sets, but at the end of the day, they were going to win. It just lasted 5 sets, And she's the youngest of 11 children. She could dunk a basketball at like age 15. And they called her female Karch because she had that nasty, that little, that little sharpshooter wrist away, that little cross court 5-foot
she
line.
Would come in and thump that ball into out of the middle right there. I had a beautiful luncheon with her during the Olympic Games down in Rio, along with the president of the FIVB and a number of other players, past players, and she ended up giving me a book that she wrote. Mm-hmm. And he'll say it's in Spanish, so I can't read it, but I certainly have something very memorable to me, because when somebody gives you something like that, especially a person like that, again, anybody pull her up, she was incredible volleyball player.
Yeah, also married to Yoel Despagne.
Yes.
Who was on the men's team, who also had to jump out of the stratosphere. And somewhere out there, you guys are raising puppies.
I hope so. I'd
Just
like
a
to
bunch
see
of
them.
high leaping puppies.
I love that.
Before we move on, because I wanted to talk about this little part 3 that you were doing with your thing.
Yeah.
Let's say something really nice about Flo, and then we'll move on, because I you know my brain, I just drifted to Marlowe Louise by itself. So one nice thing you want to say that you remember about Flo Hyman, that you remember that you want to share with us.
Simply put, class act, and always respectful. And remember, I was only around her a couple hours, to be honest with you. But again, when you get that opportunity to meet somebody like that, and you always question their ability. You always, kind of put yourself in a situation that you want to, be as good as. And she was a quality name even back then. Unfortunately, she passed early, and it was really a loss to American volleyball, because of her ability to engage with people and change the game and make it a worldwide sport.
That's excellently put, and I'll definitely close up shop. That's a mic drop moment. Do you have anything on Cuba? Just because if you look up Cuba, Mariela Luis is gonna. It was almost a decade of dominance. It was a decade of dominance. They ran a 6-2, right? Didn't even bother jump setting, just passed you an area. They ran an offense like a delayed 1, almost a high 2, and didn't really care. It was about how they did it, right? Yeah. How they did it more, much more than what they did, right?
In the history of volleyball, especially indoor volleyball, when you think about that, where the ball's going, and you still can't stop it.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of says something and puts it into a class of Alexander Savin or Polish middle blocker Wojtowicz.
Wojtowicz,
yep. There's a certain class of those type of people, and again,
remember Marcelo Negrão from Brazil, that freaking 19-year-old Oppo just in Barcelona just murdered the U.S. man.
Yeah.
I'm glad we went to 4 sets with that team.
And if you're going to go to Brazil, you have to bring up Bernard Rosman.
Ooh.
6-time Olympian, I think. Went to 6 Olympic Games, started at 15, 16 years of age. He was incredible, and I got a chance to play against him on a tour with a U.S. team in 1979 across the Canadian outskirts from West Coast to East Coast, and we must have played for what felt like a month, playing against the national team, Brazilian national team, with De Silva. And that whole team was just stacked with everybody. But
Maurizio Lima.
So it was incredible. And Bernard, I'll never forget Bernard. He had the quickest step and the quickest arm. He would fake a back one and then slide out to hit a 2-set where the guy would jump with him and the whole line would be open. He was incredible to watch.
Yeah,
but like I said, I have had the opportunity to, not only see these people but rub shoulders with them. And then be a family as we, move forward. And looking back, it's just incredible that the family of volleyball that we have. Awesome.
Yeah, it really is. Hey, check it out. Let's show it. Let's let the audience. You could give it a little bit of volume. You can start low.
All right.
Check it out. We're going to watch a little Cuba. While watching a little Cuba, we got a comment section. One of my closest friends, one of my lifelong friends, Ken Bassarath, said, "Why did Randy allow the movie makers to allow all those doubles and lips?" I think he might be talking about Match Point. Do you remember the...
I do, and she's referring to the movie Side Out, where the ball got mismangled. But the funny thing is that look at the rules today.
You're like, compared to what?
They're not so different.
Perfect.
But it's one of those ones that we kind of tried to say something to the producers that, hey, that ain't gonna fly. But they were done. They were ready to go to print and get that job over.
Nice. So that answers that, Kenny. and we gotta see how it chops or whatever. See how it goes to 50 frames per second and 27. So now it chops. So what I do is I delete it and I'll just come back. We'll come back at old school somewhere in the middle of this video, because for now I wanted to talk about, you had this 3-part segment of I guess like a memoirs thing, or like your the Randy Stoklos chronology, if you will. And is part 3 something you wanted to bust out here, or did you want to give us a spoiler? Did you want to talk about the whole thing here?
No,
the floor is yours. You're in charge, my man.
I know, but at the same time, it's not fair for me to go and elaborate on my thoughts. I want you to kind of throw some questions to me, because I've got a lot of answers, but a lot of them are going to be a little different than what you might expect.
Okay. All right. So I want to start with the most fun part. Yeah. I want to talk about how you got started in all this. For example, Miranda, she was also a volleyball player. Just say hi, Miranda. There you are. There she is. She's back, guys. She's back. And I'm so happy to have her, because teching by myself sucks. And hopefully maybe she can tech our thing for maybe Motherload next year if we dare. If we're there. So I started because of girls, right? There was a Dominican girl that I liked very much, and I wanted to impress her because I played all sports. And then you find out the hard way that you can't play this sport. You can't do that. That's a double, right? Can't do that. That's a net violation. Can't do that. That's a carry, right? Can't do that. That's 10-foot line. In fact, what are you even doing here? You're like a fourth player. There's 3 people. So it was one of those things where if we were on a fishing boat, right? And you caught a nice big flounder and you just like threw it on the deck and watched the flounder flop. And like 5 of us are just watching the flounder flop. That's how I felt like when I left that gym. I was the flounder. And then my vanity and my pride, Brooklyn, right? No one's going to teach you how to play. So I bought the AVCA handbook, American Volleyball Coaches Association handbook, written by Doug Beal, and coached myself. And then just caught on. 3 years later, I'm in Germany playing professionally. I was like one of those long arm elite athletes. So with that being said, my story is significantly less interesting than yours. Why volleyball, and how did you get into it? The floor is yours, my man.
Well, first of all, that must have been an awkward moment, because if you're going in there to go and meet a girl and that she's basically telling you what's right and wrong, and you have no voice, to start off with, that was probably difficult. But, for myself, I almost have to say that I'm a little bit of a California dreaming scenario. I grew up in Southern California. My parents came from New Jersey, from Europe to America. Lived in New Jersey, drove Route 99, 101, the main route.
Jeez.
Yeah, and comes all the way out to Santa Monica. And the next thing you know, my father goes to my mom, "Hey, find us a place to live." And the next thing you know, she finds a place in Pacific Palisades. Now, Pacific Palisades, Malibu area at that time wasn't a desirable area. So, needless to say, homes were $30,000, $20,000, and it was affordable and everything else. So, I grew up near the beach. I look at the beach to this day. I grew up right next door to the house that I was born in, and needless to say, that was the starting of things for me, because I had a family that lived about a block away, Bobby Barber, and he is in the Hall of Fame for the CBVA. Bobby Barber brought me into the sport and brought me down to Muscle Beach almost each and every weekend. I have a twin sister. They had Brad and Colleen was Bobby's twins too. So we would get taken down on weekends to Muscle Beach. Now, it wasn't so much that we were going to the aspect of, the place where they did all of the weightlifting and all of the Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff. It was kind of basically a line of courts between the pier and this lifeguard tower that basically had about 6 spots, or courts, I should say. So I got dragged down there on weekends, and one thing led to another. And don't get me wrong, I knew a lot more about the Ferris wheel, and I knew a little bit more of the arcade, and I was a master at all those different games. And coming from Brooklyn, you'll understand that as a teenager or a young kid, those were just fun things to do. And we spent a lot of times playing pinball. I remember burning up pinball machines because I knew how to get the replay, and it would just go clack clack. You hear that name, right?
Yes.
And you'd get another
Shut
replay,
down.
and you're just like, again, I think one day Brad Barber and we burned this one down, and we walked out of that place. The thing was smoking. But that's where all my volleyball started. And I started on literally the outside courts, which usually like the fifth court. And it was really fun because there was nothing that you could do right or wrong. And I played with everybody. There would be 90-year-olds out there, and everybody would rotate in every single play. And so that was really a fun way to learn the game. It's so much different now for a young person to come out on a court and try to play, because number one, the first answer they're going to get is that, oh, we already have a game set up. Oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, you can't do that. Sorry. And then ultimately they don't know the ability of that one person. And so there is no game being put together. So it was open arms and just so loving that in the respect of allowing a 14-year-old to come on the court with quality players. But that's where I learned. And one thing led to another, and I was a quick learner in regards to just trying to figure out how to make the game better, how to make your players around you better. So when you have a 90-year-old trying to bend down to a ball, well, that ball's not coming up that high, so you got to cover that and try to better the ball. As I always used to like to say, better the ball is going to make things a whole lot easier for everybody, and it starts with the first contact and it goes on through. Wonderful times. And then, needless to say, I worked my way up from that six-man outdoor scene of just playing and to all of a sudden, hey, I can pass the ball, I can set the ball. And I ended up through those years, coming down to Muscle Beach with Bobby Barber, bringing us down. He brought me down, and there was a number of things. Bobby had a couple sons, 3 sons, Mark, Brad, and Blake. And Mark was the MVP at Santa Monica City College in the indoor. And I had always remembered seeing this big, large trophy in his room that said MVP.
That's what does it.
And I was like going, okay, if this guy can do this, I certainly can, or I felt like I could. And Mark wasn't all that gifted in his ability, his strength, his jumping or anything, but he had certainly a mind. And I'll talk about that a little bit further down the line with Mark, even coaching Karch and Kent in the 1996 Olympic Games. And he was truly one of the guys that brought me into the sport along with his dad and worked with me and knew that he was going to go with and do something with me. And I was fortunate enough to play with Mark some years later, and we took third in Santa Monica Open. I'll never forget, we were playing in the winner's bracket against Jimmy Menges and Matt Gage. And these guys were backboards. I mean, the ball came up, it didn't matter. The thing, they dug the ball. But certainly, all of a sudden, we get to point game. And I think all of a sudden, I served Jimmy, and I kind of went up to block, and I fake blocked, and I was on the left side, and I came back to the middle. And Jimmy would go up and kind of swipe this ball down the line. And Mark Barber comes in like he's going to dig this ball, and he had this funny thing with his tongue, stick his tongue out like this, and all of a sudden and the ball gets hit, and it comes off of Mark's shoulder, and it goes over the net, and it hits the back line to win the final, the winner's bracket final, to get to it right. And I'll never forget Mark looking at Bobby and him pointing, going, "That's for you, Dad! That's for you, Dad! That's for you, Dad!" And really crazy because, I mean, Bobby Barber was my second father. And one that related to me. My father came with $20 in a suitcase from Poland to this country, didn't know how to speak the language, and was a work-oriented background big time, like three-piece suit every single day. What are you doing? You're not going to be a beach bum. So in that parallel
Sounds familiar.
of basically having somebody that I could relate to and have fun with, and he brought me to fun. It wasn't like my father brought me to fun. My fun with my father was going to sweep a 20,000 square foot building, and him teach me like it's 1, 2, 3 and push, and that's how you go and sweep a floor. That type of a person. That's what my father was. He was a perfectionist. A lot of it I got from him in some due respect, because I learned all of that work ethic.
Yeah.
And, and was certainly not going to let him down in that respect. But also, too, having Bobby Barber on my side was just a freedom that just went perfectly. And he's certainly one of the reasons of my success in my sport with where I came from. So California dreaming.
There it is.
It's kind of like that people around the world not only want to come to Southern California for so many different reasons, and I know a lot of them have changed through life now in the last couple years that might not be so much the same. But I just remember traveling around the world and playing the game, even when I was younger, and everybody always talked about Malibu. Everybody talked about Venice. Right. Everybody talked about Santa Monica, and everybody coming out there. So I was lucky enough just to be right down the road and be a part of that dream that started off with my dream and my success in the sport of beach volleyball.
Did you always know you were going to be good? One of the questions I like to ask a lot of my guests.
Yeah.
And I usually ask some of my guests, was there a particular tournament or a game where it could be their juniors, coming up, or it could be college or whatever, where they left that tournament or that game saying, wait, I can do this full time for a living. So I guess my question to you, and it's loaded and you can answer any way you want, was there a moment or a particular tournament or a match where you told yourself, this is real, and I can do this for a living, right? That's a type of person that comes at that moment, but there's also a type of person. There's Randy, where you have this inherent belief in yourself, and from the moment you stepped on the court, maybe it's one of those things you're like, no, this is what I'm going to do. There's nothing else. Do you get my question?
I do. I do.
And good. Allow me to shut up.
And I'm going to go backwards with it, just because I think that this is true to anybody in any kind of field. As a youngster, you're doing something, and those outside people that you don't know, they're constantly coming up to you and going, "Hey, you know what? You're pretty good." So that happens, and it happens then over and over and over again. So there's a self-belief or something that goes and drives you internally to be that person and to respect what they have and don't falter on their belief of you. And so at any time did I feel like I was going to be that one person? No, I was never. I was always looking for the following day, what and how I could do something better, how I could participate. And I guess really the one moment that I had when I was about 15 years old, that I was down at Muscle Beach and I was playing, and all of a sudden the next thing you know, I hear that there's a tryout for the men's national team up at Santa Monica Junior College, and I think you might have heard this story. Well, next thing you know, I don't have any tennis shoes, and the next thing you know, somebody's giving me some Stan Smiths, and I'm jumping into those with no socks, and they're probably a size too small because I was size 13.
And your feet are hollering.
14, exactly, and I'm just come off the beach. I got sand all over me, and I got down to the last literally day of that tryout, and It was the first time that I really had participated in actually indoor volleyball, so I didn't really know a whole lot about anything except for my God-given physical ability to do things. But that's what they liked and that's what they saw. So hey, you have a kid that's a blocker. Hey, he's a kid that's a hitter. That's look at he can even pass the ball somewhat. And so that's how, for me, that's I think the beginning of my thoughts that I would be a part of the sport my entire life. But I'll remember vividly, and this is going back to Bobby Barber, that I play in what's the first world championship at State Beach, 1976. And we are, I don't know what seed we are, but I know what seed we're playing because this was so cool. We were playing the 8-seeded team of Sims and Shaw. And Volleyball Magazine was offering a $100 bounty for knocking off a team that were 1 through 8. If you knocked them off in the very beginning, you would get $100. So
a little cheddar cheese.
This is the first game of the day. This is a court, and Bobby Barber and I are out there with a crowd around State Beach, and I would say maybe 1,000 people at a time. It was early on in the tournament, and a couple things I learned. One, that I was going to be a part of the sport for my entire life, because of the love that it gave me and the, how should I say, how people looked at me, and all of a sudden that kind of opened up my whole view of who I was, and I ended up losing. Well, let's get back to that game. Because it was so important, because $100 was a lot of money back in 1976, and I was 15. So all I could think about is like, I got a chance to win $50. This is going to be unbelievable. So all of a sudden,
$50 was a lot in 1976.
It was. Remember, that was
yeah.
half of it was going to Bobby Barber, 50 to Bobby and 50 to me.
Gotcha.
So, and I was even going like, oh my God, this is the opportunity. I'm winning this game, And sure enough, we had that team something like 12-9, and then I started to think, and the wheels came off, because all I was thinking about is that $50. And all of a sudden, then the footsteps start to happen, and the next thing you know, we're losing that game, and then I lost the next game in a close one, and then I'll never forget Bobby Barber putting his arm around me, walking down to the beach, and asking me, "Well, what do you think, and how do you feel?" And I could only put it into so many different words, and especially not to my mentor. But I showed him enough that I felt like, remember I was 15 years old. I didn't know what to experience. I had lost 2 straight. And but losing those 2 games straight set me forward to being the person that I, was throughout my whole career. And it was so exciting and so fun. But I kind of lose my train of thought a little bit with, so many things to think about. But Bobby Barber was an incredible person for me, and he did a great deal for me. And needless to say, we lost him some years ago, along with his son, Mark Barber.
God bless.
That he had some issues and went through them and wanted out. But he certainly was, those people, they were effective. They were effective in getting to be a volleyball player, for sure.
Wow. Can you appreciate when someone tells himself, the moment someone tells himself they can do this on a serious level, that their path or their journey takes this dynamic shift, right? Because you're playing and you like the sport and you're fanatical. And Miranda, who's teching the show, is also, she played for Elko, so she can go back as far as childhood to adulthood, which leads her to these dips and valleys, and the moment that you decided you wanted to do this on a serious level. So, man, with that being said, I really, really appreciate that, because this is a representation of one of many, many stories to tell. We all have stories to tell, but I really like that yours comes from this very similar, honest place. At the end of the day, it's a high level thing. It's a different level. You're not just a good player. You're not just a great player. You're the king. You're the king of the beach. So I have to say that first. But I think I find it interesting and intriguing that that level and my level, whatever I wound up, or whatever level she's winding up, her story is still being written, are so similar. They're so similar. It's crazy. It's mind blowing that it's so similar. It's like it inspires you, because it's like you are looked at a lot of people as like this god, but at the end of the day, you were, as I put in the Mad Props Monday thing, you were the soldier, the enlisted man that got your battlefield commission. You're like, I'm going to be an officer, whether you like it or not. That eventually became general of the army, which, by the way, what I said was a bad example, because you're not a general, you're a king. So I was playing around with the whole king thing, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and it was well written by you. When I talk about California dreaming, it can be the same thing for you. New York dreaming.
Yeah, man. Got just a kid from Brooklyn.
So that can take place anywhere in the world, and those are the things that propel you into stardom, into excitement of dealing with people and working with people, and again, being around our sport. Our sport is so different and so unique that it is one that is a non-contact sport. It has to be played with your mind, and there's a lot of obstacles in the way, especially the people that you're playing, whether it be dialogue or their ability to play the game at a high level. Those are all the things that you have to overcome to get your ranks and move up into the ranks of the echelon of the better players. And everybody goes through it, and everybody learns from it. And again, I have a ton of stories about all that, but we'll move on.
Nice. At some point, I do want to talk about your first Manhattan Beach Open win and just being on the pier. But for this moment, let's set up the 60-second clock, and you're going to have a choice on this lightning round, this 60-second lightning round. So over the years that you have played, and over the years that I've coached or whatever, we lost count on how many times there were rule changes in the sport, right? You can go as far back as 1984, where you were allowed to block a serve. I remember watching a third play, USA against Brazil, and Craig Buck touching up one. Like, what the hell just happened, right? Then it was 2001, we had a trailer load of indoor rule changes. Double hit, contact was legal, introduction of the libero, rally, and let serve rule. All within this 12-month thing. So I'd like you to choose a category, and I'm going to be stuck with the other category. So the two questions are, what rule change did you like that you thought benefited the sport? And the other question is, what rule change that you wish never actually happened? So you're going to pick one, and I will be stuck with the other.
Well,
what do you think?
I think the biggest change of...
Go. He's got 60 seconds.
Are we going to do time?
Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Okay.
The biggest rule change that I see is the size of the court. And in that respect, that you would have thought that I would have said the let serve or the rally scoring. I think the size of the court, back in the day, everybody considered that a miracle to go play beach volleyball in the same size of court that the indoor court was. Simply. It not only made myself into one of the best conditioned athletes at the time, but the game was just a whole lot harder. Okay?
Right.
And unfortunately, when I'm talking about everybody, when I talk about the size of the court, everybody I think that probably the first thing that comes to their mind is, the jump serving can, it's so much easier to jump serve and get an ace or something like that.
Right.
But that's not the biggest thing. For me, it was to basically put a taller player that had the ability to put the ball away each and every time back further in the court, so they didn't get the set that was all that
right.
close.
I agree.
So when everybody talks about the best players of today, well, we had the Steve Timmons, we had the Pat Powers, we had a lot of big guys that were world class athletes. But we were able to kind of neutralize them by serving them in the appropriate area. So I think that is also one of the bigger factors for me is also too not only the big person but the small person,
Right.
the guy that's under 6 foot that basically could move all the way to the backcourt and hustle up and throw down a cut shot or shoot the ball up and over the line to go and get that extra foot and be able to put that ball away. That really kind of hurt me and it hurt the sport because I felt like the sport was so perfectly made, really, truly at the time.
It felt like art and science
Where
at the same
everybody,
time.
it didn't matter what height they were, and everybody, it could be anybody, a woman, a man, it could be this big, this thin, and everybody played at almost the same kind of levels. When they made the court smaller, I think that kind of closed things off for a lot of people. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great volleyball
exceptions
players.
that rewrite the rule.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. And there always will be. But for the most part, the average player that we
Right.
lost out on and then goes to something different because, they probably get a little frustrated at having, a big blocker at the net that shuts it down and, you can't put that ball
less
away.
range to deal with. Yeah, there's so many determining factors. Actually, for old school volleyball that's listening to this, we're doing this in small clips because of frames per second. But I do see all your questions, and Indy, I see you, and we're going to definitely answer that question because that's a very important question. So you basically have the rule change you don't like. I'll go 60 seconds on the one that I did like. All right. As we go, I love rally scoring. I do love the ability, the old school ability to be down 10-0 and still have a chance to come back and win. But when you have this dynamic live now or die, you know what I'm saying? Or you have this finite amount of time to succeed. And if you don't, it's going to be significantly difficult to come back. The excitement of just rally. Everything counts as a point. Just really, really just, I fought it as an old school guy myself with every fiber of my being, but the more I watched it, the more I fell in love with it. And as they had let serve rule, I'm like, cool. So now you're not hitting the top of the tape and losing a point. Good. So now that offsets that, because remember old school, you weren't allowed to hit the top of the tape, which negates that whole jump serve argument, right? Because jump serves, you didn't have room in the big court because you weren't allowed to hit the tape. So I fell in love with rally, and even now, just thinking about rally and what it's done to the Olympic Games and time frames and television constraints has made everything politically convenient, socially acceptable, and make mine rally. So that's the one I have. Cool. I went over a minute. Sorry. Hey, let's get this question in while this clip is still up. I mean, this clip might not survive that long. Indy, we got your question. What can the AVP do to be more successful? Things that Kent Steffes talks about. Would they work for the AVP? Well, I'll start first without reading all of Ken Steffes' posts. I think the guy has got a really good writing style. It actually breathes life on paper, if you will. I haven't read all of them, but I do like some of them. And even the ones I disagree vehemently with. You got to put it out there, and there has to be discourse. There has to be dialogue, right? Steffes will write something, and it's like anyone who dares disagree with him, it's like, how dare you? He's a gold medalist. What have you done with your life? And I'm like, that is the enemy of progress. That is the enemy of healthy dialogue, and that is the enemy of making our sport get better. Because sometimes to make the sport get better, you don't go back to the same people who are part of the problem. You need people that are part of the solution, and that's what I wanted to say about that. Anything you'd like to add to that?
There's a number of different things I want to go and talk about in regards to that. Number one, to make the AVP better right now, this is a new day, it's a new year, and it's a new game.
Right.
And that game is worldwide. And that America does not have an international event on American soil, especially for the international players to earn points and the amount of traveling that they have to do to get on their national team or qualify for the Olympics. No, the U.S., for some reason, has never wanted to be a promoter of beach volleyball at all.
Right.
Okay? Yes, they have the workout area. Yes, they have things that are going to supply the athletes a chance to become who they should be, and that's definitely helpful. But at no time is anybody from USA Volleyball going, hey, we want to have an international event. We want to have an FIVB event. Now, why does this take place around the world? Well, it takes place because there's money in those other areas. And those are people that are living the California dream, as we say, where the sport has kind of originated from the grounds of Southern California to all the different areas in Europe that they play. And why not? Why not have girls in bathing suits? Wow, this looks pretty good. Sure. They have a 4-month period that summer happens, and next thing you know, Stade has thousands of or people to their events. And
what
again,
a festive place.
This is now since P1440 with Kerry Walsh. I think it was 2018 was the last event that we had in Vegas.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, ultimately,
you called that. You were there, right? You called that.
I was. And,
all right.
Great opportunity to do that and to see all the international players play. And I can only imagine if we and somebody, a promoter, got together. Well, here's a slam dunk. I mean, for me, is to go and have a trials. And, you're talking about the trials guy, okay, right now. And I'll explain that a little bit about the pros and the cons about having a trial. But if you have a trial, NBC grabs it, sponsorship grabs it, there's money, there's an event, and there is the domestic players playing in it, playing for a position on their Olympic team. And just like as we know indoors, you have tryouts, the players try to make the team, there's a cut, and that's the Olympic team. Now, I understand that there's a system of trying to qualify around the world, but I don't understand why we have to, as Americans, go to different parts of the world to accumulate those points to represent our country in our own sport.
I agree. And I'm not that big of a fan of AVP points counting for FIVB because the AVP insists on being a domestic tour, right? And it also excludes those other players from Mexico or whatever who might want to make that trip and this and that. I agree with you 100% on the common denominator of having some of those stops on the tour in the United States. They were so productive. And the one in St. Petersburg, there was a 5-star there. Florida came through, man. Vegas that was the weirdest scenario. It was like ghost quiet Thursday, Friday, and then suddenly the Saturday night crowd came, the Vegas crowd came, and they had night lights, and that's what P1440 envisioned that it would be, night lights, right. And just everyone on the hot night just having a good time, and there was that small solitary moment, and it really, really sucked that the rest of it didn't reflect that. And that's where probably like a lot of people thought that would fail. But I agree with you. They didn't care about beach volleyball until now. Where'd all that come from, right? And why are you constantly referring back to a crew of people that have a reputation for being non-inclusive and have a pattern of getting it wrong and being bankrupt? All right. Why don't we? I mean, I'm gonna be bold here, and I guess I'm the right person for the job because I don't give a damn. You cannot, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We need to try something different, and I'll give you the floor because I think you're onto something.
Well, simply put, I think that the FIVB has missed the calling in regards to there's not an event that's under, say, a player's name.
I know.
There's not a Karch.
No star power.
There is no star power.
Right.
They do that intentionally because why would you give that star power to those people? Because that gives them more power.
So what?
I know, but the FIVB gets paid,
right,
and that's how they exist by sanctioning these events and allowing all the international players to play in X amount of tournaments.
But don't they see how that power dynamic works? If you look at tennis, right? The more sponsorship Djokovic and Serena Williams had, the more eyes were on them. The more eyes were on them, the more eyes were on tennis. And the more eyes were on tennis, the more tennis made money. So sometimes you need these people that are not part of your good old boys club to allow that tide to lift all ships, that rising tide to lift all ships. I'm trying to be old school. I just bumble. I'm a mumble mouth old schooler. But rising tide lift all ships. Let them. And you just brought up something. The last household name we had in volleyball was the last one. There are many of them. There are legends. You, right? There's Randy, the Sinjin, Karch, whatever. But the last household name we had was Kerry Walsh. And when I say household name, I mean transcendent athletes. And when I say transcendent athletes, I mean athletes whose name extend through the sport. But we had a conversation like you and I can never watch wrestling again and still know who Hulk Hogan is, right? You and I might not be NBA fans, but we know who LeBron James is, right? I'm a big-time Yankee fan. I can name a whole bunch all the way back to Lou Gehrig. Where are the transcendent star players, and how do we allow those stars to shine? Like Troy Field, such a dynamic person. Evan Corey, you ever spend time with that Louisiana boy, that boy from Kenner?
Good guy.
Oh my goodness. And he's animated. He's got that big old curious, big-eyed, like he never saw a volleyball court before every time he hits the court, you know? And these are just examples. The women, they're all about their business, and you know what? Sometimes the women let their play do the talking, and they're delivering right now, right? Yep. Hughes and Clay's got a bid. My favorite team, Nuss and Cloth, right? I think is our top three in the world. Certainly the best team in the United States. Now I'm having this conversation because I'm be the first to tell everybody I don't have the answers, but we have to be honest enough to ask the question. We have to be honest enough to see the reality and repose that question. And hopefully you, me, Miranda, we can all answer this question together.
And that's why I get to that specific question that you give us, and that is, why doesn't America have an FIVB World Tour event? To be fair, let's just
give us fair. 2. Dude, just give us 2.
Right. At least in Northern Hemisphere. Okay. I mean, I understand that probably Mexico's been fitting in, and they've been getting that nod. But certainly we need to have something happen, and that was really kind of one of the thoughts that I had coming into the interview with you today, is to open the minds of the people, to let them understand that, you know, we're missing out. I mean, could you imagine having an international tournament at the Manhattan Open?
Oh, come on. Oh,
you know
my
what?
Goosebumps have goosebumps,
listen, I don't even need to have a stand. We don't need stands. We don't need anything. Let them play in the real atmosphere of what beach volleyball was like.
It would look like de facto Manhattan Sixes, right? You would just see people and then courts.
And they would see the ball blow around for the first time. Right? So they would be just so incredible like to see. Yeah. And to me, again, I was talking to my other half last night about certain subjects. Could you imagine seeing all the international flags on the pier going all the way down? Yeah. Come on. I mean, NBC, come on. It's too easy. And anybody out there that's wanting to get in the sport of beach volleyball and promote it in any way, call me, please, because there's an opportunity there, and a big one in itself. All we have to do is get the right programming and the right calendar for it to happen, truly. And you know, this might all boil down to when we get down into the Los Angeles Olympic Games in 2028.
Yeah,
there might be a great chance that all those things will finally
in LA,
come back to the United States.
Well, they gotta come back home, all right? You have to come here, dummies. Dummies. Now you gotta come.
Yeah, and then maybe they'll start putting in a little dollar cents into where they should be. And again, I'm truly just all into fairness,
right?
And you know, let's have the rest of the world compete against American players on American soil. We've got a lot of fans out here that can bark it up pretty big, and I'd love to see those guys compete against what are truly some well-educated fans out there.
I agree. Yep. Hey, the other FIVB event was Huntington Beach that year. So earlier that year, before P1440 was an international event, and it's probably, you remember I was doing the beat for Volleyball 1-on-1, but I was also a content creator, and there are so many videos I got just from that day, and interviewing, meeting Rigo for the first time, Ricardo's partner, Andor July, God bless you, thank you for making all that happen, I appreciate you. So if you're listening somewhere with your 15 kids, thank you for that. But when I was doing the beat, and this is a story I shouldn't share, but I'm going to share it anyway. There was a production meeting with the FIVB guys and the AVP guys, and I'm gonna be very careful with this because I ain't trying to betray anyone's trust, because I always, when someone has a conversation with me, it never gets repeated, and that's how I'm able to get these guests. But I could come out with this one. So it's the night before the finals, right? And they're doing the television production part of it, and you see Conover, and you see the Aussie guy or whatever it is, South African guy from FIVB, and I'm there, I'm just typing up my thing, and I'm listening to the conversation, and he's like, well, who do you have? Do you have someone for tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, we got Kevin Barnett. Like, shakes his head, and the guy goes, he's like, he's good. He just says he's good, and the whole time I'm just I was having a Guardians of the Galaxy flashback when the guy says, they call me Star-Lord, and his enemies go, who? And it was one of those situations where I'm like, clearly, the point I was trying to make is, I'm not trying to use this as a Kevin bashing moment, but clearly these people aren't talking. Yeah. They weren't talking. They would have known who Kevin Barnett was. Kevin Barnett was an indoor savage. Some of the matches he called with Paul Sunderland in 2008 gold medal run, just uncanny. The guy was an indoor god. Not I'm just going to admit, not so much for beach. I don't like the guy that much for beach, but I don't mean I don't respect him. Right. But my point is, how did they not know that coming in? Are they not communicating? Are we not communicating? And again, I'm careful the way I air stories, because I got a trust system with everyone I talk to. But I thought that was a fun story to share, because like two things were for certain. Conover was 100% sure they knew who Kevin was, and the other guy was 100% sure he didn't know what the hell he was talking about.
So one of the big things for me, especially at that same time,
sorry, Peter,
I can remember. I had the chance to go and commentate that event too. Mm-hmm. And the owner, the prior day, he goes, do you want to do this? And I said, I'd love to. And I was trying to make my play into trying to be, a commentator on the AVP. So I came out there, and Josh puts me up in the booth, and I do it with a gentleman that I can't remember his name. And in the middle of the match, we're, I think, doing Spain, and Josh is coming up to me, and he's going, it's incredible. We've already got 1 million views. And I'm kind of like going to myself like, okay, well, yeah, maybe that has something to do with the person that's communicating it, or that's in an exciting game that we're watching, or anything else. So indirectly, at that same time, while you were going through that and asking to try to, find your way into getting this opportunity, here I had this opportunity. All of a sudden, we have millions of people watching. And then the following day, thank you very much for, coming out and doing this. And we've already hired our people. Now, the people were hired a week before or 2 weeks before. And so I had no chance whatsoever. But I look back on some of that stuff. And it's just, I really do feel that, number one, when you look at any sporting event whatsoever, number one, it's the person that's, talking about it and how they're talking about it that catches your ear or your eye.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that when that happens, and I know that I have that ability to go and do that because of maybe my tone of voice, maybe the way I carry myself, maybe the way I'm assured of myself about what I'm about to say, that could cause some type of controversy or not. But I think that they've really missed the boat, internationally especially. It's incredible that, there's just no essence of history. Right. With these people and there are so many. Like, there was at one point that I was thinking that the AVP should take all of their old footage bring it to another country, have their star athletes speak in their language over that event. And now, how do you all of a sudden become like the leader in the sport? There was your perfect opportunity, because not only would those international players have that opportunity to do something like that, but it would also make the brand of the AVP that much bigger.
Okay, hey, Peter, you're right. This is my episode 200 resolution. I gotta let my guests talk more than me, okay? Especially it's the king of the beach. So I got you. I see you, and I apologize. Yak. I gotta let my guy talk. So that's my episode 200 resolution for everybody listening. And always, my people who follow, please check me as much as you can. Just say, hey, shut up, and I'm good, because I get so excited, and it's something I want to do on this podcast a little bit better. I've ruined so many episodes talking more than my guests. But I'm honest, and I see that retrospectively. So let's move on to something where you could talk. Clock, please. Next question. Next lightning round question. We are. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. All right, fun question. 60 seconds, Randy. I want you to give me an answer and a demonstration on what you think it would look like. What rule in volleyball, or what move in volleyball, should be worth 2 points?
2 points.
Got him.
Well, I think what would have huge value to the game that they play today, is if you can serve an ace with nobody touching.
Clean. Yep.
A clean ace.
Amen.
Without anybody touching. I think that would be really something special. You know where that ball is being served late in the game. It's right down that middle. Well, maybe not. If you can bomb a line and, call that in or out. But I think for a person that's wanting to score 2 points in a row and have a chance to not only keep the ball in, they're probably going right down the middle on the husband-wife.
Yep.
And there's your 2 points. But anything else, the
short court too. It's harder, right?
Yes, very, very much so. And especially, the one thing that I can talk about is that, I was kind of like one of the first persons to jump serve. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I kind of was. Like 1984, I saw those guys down when I was touring with the Brazilians, and they were jump serving indoors. I said, well, why can't I do this outdoors? And especially with the wind, I mean, I'm just going to tee it up and just, I don't know where it goes. You don't know where it goes. And that's how it went. But that aspect of serving in a shorter court is difficult. And I have to say, the only way you get around that is by serving the ball 3 feet back behind the end line, because that ball then goes into the court and hits that back line. And I tell you, how many people don't practice that? I am shocked at, and you don't even see it. And it might give the opposing team too much time, that 3 feet of that serve,
right?
That they can react. But if you're putting pace on the ball, they still got to go and handle it. They got to still push it into the right area. If they don't, then there's a chance for the obvious. Very, very good assertion, because
you're not the first person to say that, and you certainly won't be the last one, old school or new school. And really, and I'm glad you brought it up, because you took the words before I even said it. I got Eminem from 8 Mile here, it's about serve to space and getting to there, getting at a place, estimated time of arrival, moving back might not be the better idea. But like you said, if you have something nasty on it, and they have to conquer this from the neck up, being back there is a great idea.
And going to that thought, how about a sky ball? If you go up and put up a sky ball and you score on that point, maybe that should be 2 points. Because then ultimately, every time that person's in the posture of putting up a sky ball, the crowd knows it, and they know that could be a chance to go and get 2 points, and you know how that all develops into momentum of a game and the outcome of a game.
I'm going to put that in the edit, because after, I guess I got 60 seconds. I'm going to talk about mine, but after that, we're going to talk about the movie Side Out. All right, 60 seconds. For me, what should be 2 points? You already took everyone's favorites, the ace, because it's a short court and it's more difficult to get an ace, never mind a clean one, right? So I'm going to go with block that is not recovered or touched by the coverage, right? So this is what this does. You go from indoor to outdoor, right? Usually you have help, usually you have 4 defenders, and now all of a sudden you have this huge responsibility. And unless you're a disciplined Kong blocker like my man here, you're not going to get a whole lot. So when you do, you know what happens? When someone knows if you get a block, it's 2 points, it is going to entice them to cover. And when they start covering more because they don't want to give up the 2 points, they start taking care of the little things. And when they start taking care of the little things, the game becomes more athletically interesting. And when it becomes more athletically interesting, it puts more butts in seats. So make mine 2-point block. Go ahead, finish.
And I love that with the blocking aspect of things because, simply put, maybe the offensive player then knows that they can't come in and bomb that ball that's going to be that uncoverable hit that goes off the block, and maybe it slows it all down.
Yeah.
And maybe we become more of a rally and more of an exciting game with that 2 points. But those are all good thoughts. And
can you imagine juniors? Like a coach getting mad at the girl for not covering for when her partner gets blocked, and how pissed a juniors coach would be. Thanks a lot. You just gave up too.
And I just want to talk about that covering aspect of things. The best person that I have ever seen in the history of the game cover a ball is Karch Karai.
Yeah.
No doubt that he gave his teams extra opportunities to score points. And it was something taught to him at an early age that nobody really ever thinks about. Now, in the position of being a libero, that's obviously what they're thinking about because that's their job, and it's kind of turned into that. But Karch was unbelievable. Cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars by the guy sticking out an arm and covering Kent, where I had him root for game, and there went 100,000. That guy got me a number
Indy, I got
times.
your next question in a minute. For now, let's go to a little bit of that clip for Side Out. How, I guess from your perspective, how did Side Out come about? How did they approach you on this whole thing? And how did you learn all this through it go? Let's start with the easy question. There's a movie, someone had to approach you. Who approached you? How did this come about?
Well, I think through the grapevine, all of a sudden there was some talk about a movie being produced, and they actually, somebody, I'm not sure exactly who it was, asked me to come in interview for the role of Rollo Vincent. And, so I came in there, and remember, I grew up as an extra. That's how I made my money in Hollywood, working days, working nights for the $27.50, and accumulating all that. And then one thing led to another with the aspect of doing commercials. So I had a little bit of a background, and I kind of knew a little bit what I was doing. But when they throw you a script and you've got to read basically what they're writing you, certainly there was a lot of difficult lines that I was just gasping at and trying to change at that time. But Jason, this is one of the first times anybody's ever asked me about the movie Side Out, and this movie was really a great timing period for the sport. Maybe not so much for me, because the role that I played as the bad guy, I had to carry over in my real life, and with everybody going Rollo. I mean, come on, you're not the first one to say that, so come on. And they still do, where they make their comments about me beating Monroe Clark and everything else. But a B-rated movie that really got a lot of coverage. And C. Thomas Howell, Peter Horton, Sinjin played my partner.
You had Fenoya in there for like a little bit as a cameo.
There was a number of them. But, the one scene that I am most proud of is the fight scene in the bar. And it was really incredible to do that because, I had to prepare myself. And then they weren't throwing in a stunt double to do the hit where I get, the guy comes back and swings at me and I get hit. And I'll never forget doing that and rehearsing that, because my neck the following day, man, of that pulling back like I got hit with a fist across the. It was.
You're like,
there was something
we're
that
not
I'll
doing a
never
second
forget.
take on this,
But
right?
it was really
Yeah.
it was fun to do. And that whole movie in itself, remember, I'm in my heyday of my career and I'm doing this movie now. How many people get a chance to do something like that? And I know even the people that were offered it, or even a position in it, it's a little controversial. Do you want to be that role? Do you want to take that role? And then sometimes you don't even know that you're taking that role. You just want to be a part of it, and then you turn out to be the bad guy.
I know. Such a bad guy. Like your own partner even seemed like a good guy. He's just trying to get in your head. Forget about it.
Exactly.
It was amazing. Well, I will say this: B movie, fine. Cult classic. It is a movie because of the support of our community, our volleyball system, and because it's become this cult classic, has gotten more viewership than movies that win Academy Awards. And anyone that would have anything critical to say with the movie has zero to do with your performance. And I thought your performance was really, really good, okay? I have favorite actors all over the place. I said before the podcast, right? Denzel's my favorite actor. He's been in plenty of crappy movies. And almost none of those movies had anything to do with his performance. I could say the same thing about Matt Damon, hard worker, Brad Pitt, right? Yeah. They've been in bad movies, but never, in no situation was the movie bad because of them. Sometimes it's the script. Sometimes the other characters are hopelessly miscast. But this was the perfect storm, because there's no way outside of Weekend at Bernie's is this rated movie going to get that viewership.
Yeah, a little scary to kind of go and do, because the simple fact that you are recorded and it is for life, and it's however they portray that, and however they, do you wind up on the cutting room floor? Are you a bigger part of the movie than you want to be, and everything else? But again, it was a terrific time for me. That must have been so much fun.
Oh, time of your life.
Hey, remember I had a star with a chair, a chair that had a star on there.
Yes. Yeah. So you're written on the boardwalk in Manhattan Beach end there. Oh, cool. Funny. Comment section. Hello from Virginia Beach. What's up, Tim? Carlos, hi Randy. Remember Team Cup volleyball at the Forum? Absolutely. So Miranda, I don't know, Miranda who's teching my show. Team Cup volleyball is basically someone from the back row was allowed to come up and block. So you had 4 blockers. They moved the 10-foot line to the 15-foot line. So every play they ran, like every player had at least a 2 or 3 man block. It was amazing. Yeah, and all the sponsors came through. You can let me shut up. You could talk us through Team Cup volleyball.
Team Cup had all the sponsors and all the good sponsors, but know who really should get more credit than anybody is Jerry Buss.
Jerry Buss. Yep.
Jerry Buss, along with Jeannie, growing up in the Pacific Palisades area, going to high school at Pali High. They were around the sport. They knew it. Jeannie was married to.
I was gonna say, tell us who Jeannie was married to. That makes sense.
Steve Timmons, Olympic gold medalist, and I think that there became a bigger even love of the sport. But what was odd about that whole format was the aspect of that back row player coming up into the front, because it was always confusing. I mean, I'm a middle blocker. You're a double middle blocker. You outside? Where you? And everybody tried to match up with everybody, and then the indoor guys that were playing at that time, even Karch, Pat Powers, Steve Timmons, they were just teeing off.
Yeah, Team Toyota. Yeah,
exactly, Team Toyota. But there was a lot of great things that had happened throughout. I mean, I want to even go back a couple steps here, like in my early years of me playing indoor volleyball. I went from Palisades High School, winning 2 city championships, to playing on the junior national team and winning the first gold medal for the United States in 1977 and 1978. Then they had what was called this event, the national, it was the East, the West, South, and all these teams. And sure enough, I got on the teams that won gold medals on both those years.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, I find myself playing, indoor volleyball along with the beach. And then 1980 rolls around, 1981, I win the Manhattan Open. I'm coming back to playing indoor volleyball. And there was obviously quite a big difference between the guys that were playing that. They had
West.
rhythm, they had it all. But I was fortunate enough to be in the right places at the right time, and I won a lot of big events being on the bench, so to speak.
Yep. Karch played in El Masseguero from Italy. I remember he played indoor. I think that's what he was doing during the 92 Olympics. That's
Yes.
why he didn't play indoor.
Yeah.
Tim Driscoll, how did you get to be a part of Better Off Dead? Another film.
That was again. I went out to interview, and sure enough, they said, "Okay, you're going to be one of the basketball players." I think I had a line or two in there. What was really important was if you had a line or two in the movie, you got residuals, and you got them. They were a bigger deal.
Residuals were a bigger deal back then because you
my
couldn't
God.
pirate things.
Yeah, exactly.
Back then.
I mean, I still get my $7.97 from Side Out every
Yes. Did you one of the other questions? Did you take a helicopter ride from the set to the airport to make it to the next tourney during the Side Out movie?
I probably didn't, but it sounds good. I'd love to have jumped onto a helicopter.
Tim? Yes, it's the truth, and we're sticking to it, Tim.
I think the only one that is so memorable for me was up on the East Coast. We were playing in Salisbury, New Jersey.
Okay.
And there was this one road that was this gauntlet into the beach, and it was well packed because that was summer months, and that was where everybody wanted to go. And you weren't turning around in the afternoon to try to get out of there.
No, hell no.
Well, it turns out to be with Sinjin, I have this Lincoln Town car. It's a big old one. I always like to rent those big ones. Tim Hovland and Mike Dodd, they have one. And we are in the finals together. We win the tournament, and we get a police escort out of that place.
Good.
And the greatest is that we got to go past everybody all the way out to the big route to get down to the Boston airport. And the next thing you know, we're in a race. Like literally driving 100 miles an hour down the road. We're going in and out. And I even go through a gas station, which was the bad mistake, as Tim Hovland got to the good turn, and they won the race coming back. But it was classic, literally.
It looked like OJ trying to get away.
It was so classic with a big Miller beer can, drinking away, with that escort out that way.
Yeah.
And that was probably a little bit better than a helicopter ride.
Cool. Hey, LJ, welcome. I got your question. I was going to ask it after this, but I actually want to do it now. LJ said we do an old school, and I guess an Adam Johnson old school format tourney in Austin. And it says he wants to make a comeback. Is that a question for Randy? Do you want Randy to make a comeback, or do you want Randy to join that and commentate? So be more specific, and we'll answer your question properly, okay? LJ, I love you, man, and I love the work you've been doing in Texas. You are Texas, all right? So this 60 seconds is just for you because it's just for players, and when it comes to beach players, I don't qualify. I was in a Manhattan Beach, just to say that I did it once, right? That Gladiator in the Arena thing, so people can, not talk junk. But for you, 60 seconds, what were the three most memorable venues that you played in?
I'm going to go, you're going to give me 60 seconds.
For
60
three.
seconds. You want to give me 60 seconds. They're going to talk about this. Well, there are so many incredible areas that I literally played in. I can remember probably playing in front of about 20,000 people up in Boulder, Colorado. Yeah. What a scene of mobbing people around those hard-packed courts. And I was in my heyday, and we ended up winning, and that was the year that we won the Triple Crown, winning all three events. But, playing down in Rio de Janeiro, where you have a
Great
stadium.
Story.
They brought in a path across the street from Copacabana Palace for the dignitaries so they could get in and out. Where they had a car behind the inside of the stadium, so they learned throughout the years that when we would go down there, that there were so many people that wanted us and wanted to be around us that it became a problem. And I'll tell you the story even after this one, because they got smart enough that they opened up the side wall of of the arena, and sure enough, we drive away, like in a Hummer, in a big, 4-wheel drive vehicle, and we get out and we go to our hotel, and then, next thing you know, we're going down to the beach someplace else, but we have another 1,000 people down at that hotel just trying to go and say hello to us. But so many incredible
It's such an
times.
unfair question on my part,
Well,
isn't it?
It is, because, look at Santa Cruz.
Someone said the Hard Rock Casino. Someone said Milwaukee, LOL.
Milwaukee.
Someone said King of the Beach in Vegas for the King of the Beach.
Come on.
And
just imagine, I'm going to keep on going.
and he just
literally
screamed, Jay, in 60 seconds. Are you kidding?
There is just so many places that we were played in front of spectacular crowds.
Nice.
All the way back to Chicago. Oh my goodness. And then that doesn't even, almost Hermosa.
Yeah.
Hermosa. I remember,
right here, man.
remember losing in 1991 to Adam Johnson and Ricky Ludes.
Ricky Ludes, yeah.
In that tournament, and we had that game. Man, we had that tournament. I'll never forget that cut shot that Sinjin kind of missed, and it went off of him, and I couldn't get to it at the pole, and it was so close. It was. And I had bombed one of the bigger balls in my life in that tournament. I hit one ball down the line late that I think I gave it the old, where's the ball going into the horizon type of look.
There they go. 60 seconds. Unfair. LOL. 60 seconds. And LJ said, yeah, it is for Adam Johnson. And Randy would love for you to just come out and be great. So, yeah, text me or him the dates or whatever, and either he can or he can't. Randy's pretty cool as far as coming through and just saying hi. He's still, you know what I'm saying? He's the king, but he's still with his people. You know what I mean? He's still with his loyal subjects. So, yeah, no 60 seconds for me. I ain't no beach player. I'm a beach coach. I'm a beach commentator, and I get to talk about great people like you for a living, and I'll do the best I can to deliver that. So, Manhattan Beach, California.
Yep.
This is my own personal question. What was the first one you won? And if you can remember, take me through some of the moments that led to the semifinals or just the finals. I will leave that up to you to navigate.
Yeah. So the Manhattan Open, I didn't even see the Manhattan Open until I played in my first one. You would have thought maybe I would have played in one of the tournaments. Well, actually, to be honest with you, now that I think about it, I did play in a couple of the tournaments prior to me winning in 1981. One was with Chris Marlowe. We took third. Chris burned his feet so bad that he couldn't play anymore. And I think I had the funnest time I've ever had playing with anybody ever was with Chris Marlowe. When Chris Marlowe roared at the crowd roared right back. Oh, and wow. The power of that, and again, here's an entertainer. He was on some soaps and, needless to say, on TV for as long as
he got a commentating award just recently.
And he's been doing it for the Denver Nuggets for the longest time, too. But Chris was so animated that one of the funnest tournaments that I ever saw Chris play in is a mixed tournament with Santa Barbara gal, Kathy Gregory. Now, Kathy Gregory and Chris Marlowe, those two yelling at each other and go, 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 and all the dialogue in the world, and it just didn't stop. It was incredible to see. Chris Marlowe, I could do a whole little campaign and a whole show on Chris Marlowe. One of the funniest times I've ever seen, and I'm sorry, Chris, because I'm going to have to break this one out.
We're going, baby.
I'm going to break this one out on you. I'm up in Santa Barbara. I think in the winner's bracket. It's late in the day. I'm in fifth place on Saturday. And now there's some games going on in the loser's bracket. And I think Jay Hanseth is playing. It doesn't even matter. He's playing against Chris Marlowe. And
do you remember the year, you and Chris?
Yeah, my in Manhattan, that was 78 or 79. I was 17 or 18. But the story that I'm talking about up in Santa Barbara was the most insane moment that I've ever seen Chris Marlowe be a part of outside of winning the gold medal.
In 84, right.
In 84. He was up big. He was up like 10. It was like literally 10-1. Next thing you know, the wheels are starting to fall off. And everybody's looking at this from far, and everybody's watching this basically break down like you saw the train wreck happening. It's going to happen. And the next thing you know, Chris Marlowe is losing the game. He jumps up on the net. He grabs the top of the net. He puts his feet on the bottom of the net. And he's trying to break the net. He's trying to break the net and take the entire net down. And it was one of the most awesome scenes I've ever seen in the sport of volleyball. And Chris was just, and nobody, I mean, there was a few people that saw this, but it was amazing. The net didn't go down, first of all. It was the old standards
the
up
net was
there
like, forget
and
it, Chris.
Exactly. He wasn't able, but he was so pissed off that he lost that match.
You think he saw Karch and became inspired?
Yeah. Well, that was even
came later.
before. Yeah,
Okay.
Karch's thing maybe got inspired by Chris. By him ripping down the net at
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island in 1989.
Dude, the ref,
really helped
and it was
out.
attached to the ref step, and
Yeah.
the ref had to jump off for his life.
Yeah, and he
was
rode
crazy.
that thing down. Really cool.
Yeah.
But Manhattan, getting back to the Manhattan Open, I had played it in a number of times. I took a third. I think I might have even been in the finals of a tournament with Andy Fishburne. Andy and I never won a tournament. I think we played about 20 tournaments together. But we were playing against Karch Kirai and Sinjin Smith, and they were a quality team back in the day. They were really owning it. But then I got my opportunity to play with Jimmy Menges. Jimmy Menges, for me, the king of the beach of the 1970s.
Wow.
Truly. Not a big physical gifted player, but played on the big court without blocking over. That enabled him to go and chop that ball around. And defensively, he was incredible how he just lined everybody up. And that ball came up. I saw him in so many tournaments against so many great players dig balls that were just the best digs that you could possibly even imagine. The ball would just come up, and it would come up in the perfect spot. So Chris asked me, or Jimmy asked me to play in a tournament the week before that, and that was at Laguna. And we played in the tournament, and we come out with a 7th place. And obviously, I'm playing with one of the better players that are playing the game, and we really kind of have a terrible outing. And but the following week, Jimmy asked me to go and play again, and I said okay. And now we're into the Manhattan Open, and we were the 6th-seeded team. And I remember one of the biggest plays that had happened in the finals of the tournament. It was a 2 out of 3. We were playing against Andy Fishburne and Dane Selznick. And all of a sudden, there's a ball that is hit out. They hit the ball out just long, but they think it's good. And they've got these guys from Anheuser-Busch, that 2 guys that they literally are corporate guys that they had put this hat on, and they're reffing the corner, and the guy's calling it in or out. And so now it's literally like the players are in this guy's face telling him that it's in or out. Well, it went in my favor. And that was a big moment in that match that enabled myself to win that. And I was 20 years of age. And then the story goes that, we won $5,000 in prize money. Man, that was pretty big.
And what year was that?
1981.
$1980, $5,000.
$5,000.
That's my rent for like 2 years,
and
man.
so I was beginning with UCLA, and I was worried about my being an amateur in that time and not taking any money and everything else, so all of a sudden now Jimmy gets the check, and it's the following day from the city of Manhattan Beach, and the next thing you know, we're at the Bank of America in Manhattan Beach, and we're in line, and I'm behind him, and I'm going, and I'm just waiting for any kind of reaction of how this whole thing's going to go down, and how am I going to get my hands on that $2,500? So all of a sudden, the lady's looking at the check, and she goes, "This is a pretty big check from the city of Manhattan Beach. Can I ask you guys what you do?" And Jimmy looks at her and he goes, "We dig ditches." I am just dying. I'm behind him going, oh my God, we're digging ditches and we're getting paid $2,500 a piece.
That's such a great sell. Digging ditches.
And he got the $5,000 and he came out in that parking lot and he peeled out 25 of them to me. And I was like, I was the happiest guy of all time. There's more money than I've ever gotten in my life. Earned one way or the other, and it was quite rewarding. And
I have this vision in my head, right, of the woman who got the digging ditches answer, and she's looking at him like, I'm in the wrong line of work.
I want to do that too.
I'm in the wrong line of work.
I want to do that too, exactly.
Oh, wow. That was amazing. So, yeah. Manhattan Beach, etched on the pier. You have 132 wins, first place finishes, right?
123.
123. And I remember one of the last videos you saw, they had your room, like your office in the background. They're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at all those trophies. And you went like this. You said, mind you, they are first place.
Yeah. I kind of cringed on saying that, but it's just...
you can't keep them all. You first of all, you consolidate to first place,
okay,
and then decide how many first places.
Okay, so you got 365 opens that I played in 11-year career, or maybe a little bit longer than that, and
you won 33% of the time.
Something like that. It's
Jesus,
a little bit more than that, but ultimately, I took 85 seconds.
Right.
Can you imagine? I'm 85. Well, that's kind of like a loser, right? But then the third places and everything else. So needless to say, that's why I kind of limited it to what it was. I don't have that big of a house.
I think what you do after a while is you keep the trophies that have a story to tell. That kind of like mean something, right? If you look behind you, the handful of trophies I got there, I don't have. No one in the world is going to have as many first place finishes, or certainly your percentage. But like me, like you, I did run out of room, and I'm like, all right, that was in Germany. I'll keep that.
Oh, I have my first. I have my first trophy that I ever was awarded.
My first co-ed trophy's there. I mean, So my first Coach of the Year trophy. Yeah,
I'll throw you in that one too. That was at Sereno. It was a Sereno A. We took third place. I was playing a guy with Mark Eller, and we had taken third. We lost to Andrew Smith and Davey Hilton to this day.
Right.
Davey goes like 5'6", and we lost to this guy that would just chop this ball around. But I ended up winning that trophy. And I ran from Sereno, Santa Monica, which was about, a mile and a half down to the pier, Santa Monica Pier, that Bobby Barber had a swimsuit store. And I was so proud to run that entire way to go show Bobby Barber my first trophy. And that was so important to me that was the beginning, and that stays in my trophy.
Cool. Let's play a little bit of the clip. I saw you had a little old school thing. Let's play a little of the clip, and Randy can answer this question while we're playing this clip. Tim said, who was the scariest server you ever faced? Sinjin told me Akatubby back in Milwaukee years ago. And Akatubby did have a gnarly serve, and even Karch said he's one of the better players he's ever played with.
Yeah, I don't know. Scott was certainly gifted. But
Loyola had
a lot of issues.
One.
Okay. He had a lot of issues in regards to drugs, and along with his brother. And again, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but unfortunately what really truly happened and transpired is that those things kind of took over his body in such a way that he had to go to a steroid to pull him out of this. I'll never forget the way he looked in Laguna Beach. Where he was being, taken off into a paramedics truck, along with, I think, even Gary Hooper during that time, that same thing, those things that were happening. So I think the one thing that's not fair, really, to me or anybody else that played in that era, that he was on the juice. And I mean, nobody's going to really deny that. And I, don't want to be the first one to say it, but I know exactly who gave it to him.
He's on the sauce.
And so I was a pretty powerful player. And when I got to be playing against him, and especially when he was playing with Karch, he was superhuman. I mean, superhuman. The ball was almost untouchable when he hit the ball, almost untouchable when he served the ball. The speed and the strength of what he gained was not like no other. Truly,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, like no other. And those things, and I always people kind of always said to me, or throughout my career, like, gosh, it looks like you're on something. And I said, if I was ever on something, I would never have lost.
Thank you.
I would never have lost.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, it literally, that enhancing drugs at the time was such a big factor. And but Scott was certainly, he set the ball, which might not you might not think about that. Any drug is going to help you be a really beautiful setter, but he was.
It helps you from recovery, right? You get more repetitions, your serve
All
gets
the
better,
above,
and
and
all those things come into play.
And those
And
yeah.
we're not talking TRT, we're talking straight up steroids.
Yeah.
So
that was one of the biggest things in terms of a server. I mean, needless to say, my ex-partner, Adam Johnson, when he played, you always had to worry about that serve down the line and to cover that
Jose
ball.
was a streaky guy,
Oh,
too.
it's in Jose, too. And remember, now you have two guys bombing the ball at you, and it's relentless.
Playing together, that's right.
They're relentless, you
Yeah.
know. So, and I remember playing with Scott Akatubby after his steroid use, and we took second at the Manhattan Open. It was one of my last tournaments at the Manhattan Open, and it was a kind of a bummer because I remember him telling me that he didn't want to block. He didn't want to block, and I was like, "Okay, you want me to do this 100%? I'm dead, Kind of help me out, youngster. Maybe you can be the difference." But we ended up losing that one. And in regards to the Manhattan Open, it's my favorite. Okay, but it's not my favorite because I played in it a number of times. I got to the finals 11 times, and I only won 4 times.
Okay.
And those other opens that I
It's
lost,
a good
there,
problem to have.
Yeah, so it's like literally like, no, but I had a chance to literally have 11 plaques up there, and they were not like, maybe against with ACK that I lost that in a respectable way that I just lost. But all the other ones that I had lost, they were 1-point game, 2-point games, Javi Dodd, Karch, Kent, and
but Randy, that's the championship life.
Yeah.
Right. Look, for people listening, and I could testify to this. Championships are not won by blowouts. Championships are decided by 2 points. Right. You could have a high school program that's 38-1, right, and that's their match record. But if you look at the sets played, like how many of those sets decided by 2, probably 31 of the sets out of the 38 matches decided by 2, and those can go another way. Now all of a sudden that your record's not 38-1, probably got 38-1 because it was decided by 2, right?
And let me say this, that losing by 2 points is just like the worst thing that can possibly happen.
Freaking
but
heart.
if you win by 2 points, it's the greatest victory of all time.
Yeah.
And that's that margin of winning and losing that everybody hopefully can be a part of, because that's what drives us to be volleyball players. That's what brings us back.
100%.
And that's what really, the whole sport, grew on, and that everything about it, the 2-point game, and we rarely get a whole lot of those now. I would have to say with the top teams, you're going to see that indoors much more, and you're going to see the moments of where that error is affecting the rest of the whole play, and it comes out so much more because you've got to put a finger on it. But last but not least, in the respect of how we played the game and the way the game's played now, we did not know when the game ended.
They were timed.
We never ended. We never knew when the game ended. So it could be 14 and you could side out 14-6. 14-8. 14-10. 14-11 side switch.
It's
and
never over.
You never
until
know
that last
when
serve.
you knew when that game was over. And what a terrible feeling.
It is.
What a terrible feeling. I'd love to go and play this ping pong scoring. I know exactly when the game ends.
Yep.
I could calculate things.
Yep.
You can't calculate it in the old school.
Yeah, you
scoring
can't.
system, and that's what was so great about it.
I wanted to say a little joke about steroids. Chael Sonnen once said, look, if you get busted for performance-enhancing drugs, you have two choices. You can go in hiding, right, and let it blow over and then just show your face again eventually. Or you could just come out on front and just say, I did it. He says, when I did it, someone asked me, why did you take performance-enhancing drugs? He says, I took it to enhance my performance. He says, do you think I'm going to take something that's going to diminish my performance?
Yeah.
I took PEDs to enhance my performance.
Yeah.
I wanted to have fun with that.
In that respect, it too, back in the day, you could watch sporting events and you could kind of tell. And then the subject was, for sure, baseball players back in there were, obviously the Maguires and the Sosas. And you could tell the track star, the gal that got popped for it, when she ran, I said to my other half right there, I go, she's on something.
Yep.
You can tell as a sports person.
And you got to be careful, right? With some of these GNC supplements that say they don't have this, they have that, next thing you know, and your blood work or whatever, you test positive for something, right? Alex Kleiman, when she played indoor pro, she got in some hot water with that and got suspended.
And there was a number of
And Mackenzie couldn't afford to go to Australia and take the test and just took the guilty fine because he didn't have the money to travel. So it was just,
There was a number of players on the AVP tour or the FIVB when we were playing some of our first events for the FIVB in Hermosa that were tagged.
Right.
And they were, and then there was a prime example of Akatubby pulling out of that tournament because he was in the winners bracket and all those fifth place teams had to go and be tested. The next thing you know, he's not to be found.
Nice.
And then they just pulls out of that tournament. But there was a number of other players that I know of because of the background of how everything was happening. But again, I think that's kind of come and gone
I agree.
in some respect because
they just caught up.
Yeah, the game is now totally changed, and a lot of the stuff that you might have thought that might have been enhancing and helpful, or really maybe not so much. And they obviously see the end outcome of people that have done that in the past.
Well, the science has caught up because there have been a lot of lawsuits where people tested positive and lost money and got suspended only to find out that they took a product that said that didn't have it from GNC that did have something in there, right? And totally innocent, I'm not talking about anabolic steroids. I'm talking about testosterone replacement therapy, right? All of a sudden your TRT levels are like really, really skewed. And you want to be a man. It's like, hey, they got me on the low day. Test it again. This is TRT, man. I don't apologize.
Exactly.
Well, let's get to fun before we get to our last lightning round. Who's the best defender on the domestic tour? Back row defender.
Oh,
the best, or I don't know. Yeah, no, I'll say it that way. Who's the best defender in terms of digging, not blocking?
Domestically or internationally?
Domestically. Well, internationally, I already got mine, but internationally, I got Ahmed Tijan. But
I don't think he's even playing anymore. That would be Nick Lucena.
Yeah, so good.
But
his twitch, man.
Taylor Crabb.
Yep.
Is in the right spot and seems to slow everything down. Mm-hmm. I'd have to say Sinjin, because Sinjin, not only. Maybe it was the extra time because of the bigger court that enabled him, but everybody learns. But that's the best defensive players. It's the game is now being won, I think, at the net. It's not so much the defensive in the back. It puts pressure, obviously, on the opposing team when you get a guy that can run down balls but unfortunately, they can't convert most of the time.
It's blocking technique, too, which the European coaches do so well. Like, I played in Germany, right? I'm 6'1". There's no way I should be, like in my prime, I should be blocking 6'8" guys that play for D1 colleges. How does that happen? It's timing and technique. Right. And you got Anders Mall, who's one of the best blockers in the world. And I asked this question with a huge pause to cause because last time I checked, blocking was also considered defense. So I was very specific about my question.
Yes.
I'll go with you, Taylor Crabb. I'll go Kame Shaw from the old school term. I'll go AJ and definitely you're the other half of the Kings of the Beat, Sinjin Smith. Internationally, I go Ahmed Tijan. Remember Ahmed Sharif's partner?
Yeah.
And we actually covered one of those games. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Lupo from Italy.
Yep.
And Christian Sorm, who's Anders Moll's partner.
Of course.
Yeah. And Peruvic and Schweiner. I'm not sure which one is which, but that defender's gnarly.
Yeah.
Best blocker on tour.
Oh, the best blocker on tour.
They're all retired.
Yeah, no, Theodore Brunner.
Yeah. He's in shape now. He looks great, man.
But Tri Bourne, if he was put in the right position with his team, I think he was a great blocker. Internationally, from the past, I would say Ricardo Santos.
Even 48 years old,
just
still
the longest of arms, and just took that area away, kind of under the radar, so to speak, but not really. Olympic gold medalist,
right?
The best blockers. I mean, when I used to kind of tee it up and have to go against Pat Powers, he was a little frightening,
right?
Because he was a big boy, and he could get up and over, and he could take away area,
right?
And he had this yell.
And if I had to pick one for the women, I'd go Kristen Nuss domestically.
Yeah,
just one. There's so many words.
I think
like Sarah Hughes, so many words, but Nuss, boom. Okay, and then internationally, I go Rebecca from Brazil, and we had a chance to see her.
Kristen Nuss almost. It seems like she almost scares her opponents. Like that she's going to get roofed. They're going to get roofed, And it's just like she just funnels that ball into her defensive player.
Yeah. And her transition game.
It makes it so simple, like la-di-da, here we go, set that ball up and down, you chop over this way. And her partner just literally shoots that ball around like Buzz Schwartz. I don't even know who Buzz was, but Buzz was a great player.
There's nothing in the world like being like someone getting a dig. And you've seen this person play, and when they get a dig, you're at the edge of the seat, seat, because, and I could use you for certainly as an example.
Yes.
When you get a dig, the fans, they're almost kind of like halfway getting up, because they know once you get this dig, something gnarly is going to happen on transition. I felt that way about you. I feel that way a little bit about Taylor Crabb. I feel that way all the time about Ahmed Tijan. I feel like every time he gets a dig, he's not rolling. He's just bombing, right? And I feel that way about Kristen Nuss.
I want to say that, I was the majority of the blocker the majority of the time. How I would have loved to have stayed back and dug. Oh, my goodness.
Give you an Anders for one season.
Oh, I remember one tournament, the Hawaiian Open against Hanley and Stevenson in the finals, and I threw Sinjin up. We were up big time on him, and I threw Sinjin up to block Johnny Steve from the left side, and I'm playing left side defensively, and Johnny the Steve tries to cut a ball, and I'm all over it. And he's stuck up at the net, and he releases soon. I pop the ball up in the middle of the court. It's not even a dig. It's a ball that I've just run down. Sinjin sets me like a 2-set in the middle, and I give it the aloha to end it, and I just bury this thing straight down. I mean, it was like literally one of the best endings of a tournament for myself, because I didn't have that many opportunities.
Right.
My opportunities was either the big block or the transition set to Sinjin to finish it off.
You know what I find interesting? In the present day, when you look for who's the best female player in the world, it's more difficult to find because they do well. These days, they're doing well as a unit, right? I don't picture Cloth and Nuss by themselves, right? Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang or whatever, the honeymoon phase is back on board or whatever, and you want to be just like single out this person. That's the best single player in the United States. That's the best single player in the world. And back in the day, we could answer that with Kerry and Misty.
There you go.
You could have an argument with them, but
I'll
go back further. Jackie Silva, hands down, that's my GOAT.
Yeah.
If we want to go old school, straight up old school, Jackie Silva's the GOAT for me, period. End of story. But for the men, you don't think of them when you think of best player in the world. You don't think of them as a unit. In the present day, I feel like you see them as individuals. Like when Phil played with Rogers, right? No one talked about Rogers. They just said Phil's the best player in the world. Ali Sun won the gold. there was this conversation because Bruno Oscar Schmidt can get every ball in .9 seconds, right? Which is a ridiculous number. How do you feel? Is that just me? Do you feel differently about that based on your assessment for male and female? Are females judged more as a unit as far as best player, or more of a best team, and the men are judged more as a best player?
Well, listen, going back in time and thinking about my career along with Sinjin, I don't think anybody kind of put a name on one of us,
right?
The same type of thing, and that went with Carrie and Misty.
Right.
If you were to say that, how could you really leave out Misty?
You can't.
I mean, it's impossible.
Right.
I mean,
and
Misty just had so many good things about her play that enabled Carrie to be the great player that she was. But again, to this day, in terms of an athlete, I will give Carrie Walsh just a little bit more of a nod because she was just different.
She's
just
way special.
different.
Yeah.
And,
they both were, but she was special.
Yeah, I know. But, when you look at players like throughout the years and, if you can catch it early or even later and really understand what that person is, it's kind of remarkable. I even look at my career sometimes and go, yeah, I was a good volleyball player, but I wasn't all that.
Right.
But, a lot of other people thought different.
How about, sustainability comes into play, too, when it comes to Carrie Walsh, right? She's 5 Olympics, right? She's 4 on the beach. In the 2000s, she played indoor for the national team. All-American at Stanford, could run a slide like nobody's business. She was, even back then, big smile on her face all the time, the epitome of positivity. Not to mention both of them. We were talking about transcendent athletes whose names extend beyond the sport. I don't watch beach, but I know who Carrie is, right? Even now, Phil is known as the bald guy, right? A lot of people don't know Phil who don't play beach or who don't watch beach. But so fast forward to the present. Do we still have the same thing about the women? Is it more unit?
Well, again, I think that once they get identified as a team, you are going to, go to one player or another. Maybe it's your style of play,
right?
Or maybe it's the style of what type of play you like. That sells that a lot. And again, right now being in the internet and all of the things that the people have, it somewhat is a popularity game. And so you might not be a great player, and let's look back at Laird Hamilton's wife,
right?
Gabby Reese. Gabby played on a number of different tours, became a standard name, a household name with the game for the girls in beach volleyball. But was she one of the better players? No.
When they played fours,
yeah, because of the position that she played in.
Right.
But she was a really good athlete, still is today. But there you have it right there, like that years ago. She was probably being brought up before a number of players in all due respect.
Yeah.
But I think the greatest person that has ever done anything for us in terms of our sport, Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah. Yes.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Guy played indoor professionally as an outside hitter, no less.
Yeah, but
almost 7 footer playing OH.
But people just don't understand, number one, that how good of an athlete this guy was, from track and field and all the different events that he participated in, all the records that he has in the NBA, all the different aspects of the game that we love in terms of beach volleyball, that a guy 7'1", a black man, is going to come out on the beach and love it. I mean, I grew up. He was a really good friend of mine. I saw the guy do things that I will never forget because his strength. I saw him.
The wrist.
The
wrist control.
The
was
wrist.
ridiculous.
He would just literally. He was so big that you'd go up and block, and the ball would just come off his hand and it would go straight down. I have one picture of myself hanging on in my house that I call it the Wilt Chamberlain shot. That's how I kind of foresee myself of literally going up and just keeping my hand and letting the ball hit my hand and the thing goes straight down. But remember,
Yeah.
he was such a big and strong dude.
He was.
I mean,
Yep.
I'll never forget him going and saying, yours, 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 yours. You know, he'd want to go and have me
Yes.
receive the first ball, you know, and then he would go and try to set this ball like it was like a grapefruit. He would try to shove that thing up and put it in the right
Soup
area
bowls
for
for
me.
hands, yeah.
Exactly. Huge. And then the drip off of his chin of just this broken spigot of water that would just, I'm talking about you see this is the rhythm that it was, and it would go on. Just I'd look over and just see that thing like, oh my God, he's just spewing water.
You're like, it's
And-
like a
but
Mike Tyson movie,
I
man.
saw
Little
Wilt
foam.
Chamberlain take a player and lift him over an 8-foot net and drop him off.
Jeez.
Okay, I saw him when he was 50-something,
caveman
benching
stuff.
300 pounds and ringing the 300 pounds 10 times, ringing it.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
And I was just, that was at Santa Monica City College, and I was a youngster and looking at him going, I mean, remember the length of his arms, right? Versus now how far he had to go and go down with that thing. You know, you think the shorter distances you're going to be able to go and push. And there's some talk about him even benching 500 pounds. But Wilt was he was an athlete like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah,
back in
that
the day.
kind of transcendence.
And that he had that, you know, everybody wanted, you know, and there was the negative to Wilt a lot that I saw that, you know, the parents would send the kid down at Santa Monica and try to go get his autograph. And so he didn't like that at all. When he was at his free time, when he was playing his chess games or his all the different backgammon,
Right.
all the different things and a muscle that he was doing. But he was, for me, you know, did more for the sport than any athlete going. And that's really kind of hard to say. Gene Selznick was one, too.
Gene, yeah.
Gene was right there. But those guys were buddies. And those
I mean-
guys, literally, they partied together. And then, you know, that Wilt Chamberlain never drank.
Wow.
Never
Come
drank.
on. Wow.
Wilt Chamberlain never fouled out of an NBA basketball game.
There he goes. Let's pull up this video while we're talking about him. There he goes.
The Big Dipper.
Pretty good thing, the Big Dipper.
Oh, that's just beautiful that you
Look
have
at the
that
little
footage
kids.
there. Awesome
Yeah,
stuff.
you could just scroll back a little bit. I like the ones in the beginning.
Wilty was just awesome.
he
I
is.
really do
Yep.
miss him. I miss his friendship. I've got a picture at my 100th win. He was right there to support me.
Nice.
I almost get, obviously you can hear it on my voice.
Perfect.
Wilt was just the sweetest guy. And then, you know, you had the naysayers about all of his things that he was doing, and then the 20,000 women on top of that.
That's what I'm
Which
saying.
is
How
just
do
a
you
joke.
have all those women and you ain't got no booze to like
No,
have you
no, that
to
was-
guide you through that?
That was all talk, and it was good
Yeah.
PR, and it was
Okay.
always, to this day, it's a good laugh.
Good.
But,
Good to know. Someone said I vote Zach Barnes. How dare you? Zach Barnes, you know who I have in this room right now. He only did it once, okay? So, old school, thank you guys for staying with us on this, because I wanted to give you guys a chance post that Mad Props Monday to speak your mind positively or others. So this was your chance to say it now or forever hold your peace, because I'm here with the king of the beach. We are going to finish with something we call the lightning round, and she's actually going to read off the questions.
Sounds good.
So let's go 60 seconds first. I'll wait, because I know you were pulling up another Wilt Chamberlain video with indoor volleyball. He's talk about an intriguing character.
I've got some shots of Wilt. Man, he was unbelievable how big that guy was.
Yep.
Incredible.
Oh, good. Split screen, and then let's do
Got
our
our
60
60.
seconds.
All
And
right. This is for all the questions?
let's
60
do it.
seconds?
Both
all
of
right.
us. And go.
Favorite comedian?
I'll go Dave Chappelle.
Richard Pryor.
Ooh. Last good book you read?
The real Anthony Fauci.
No.
Or listen to?
Oh, I'm not gonna get the name.
We'll
of
get it at the
I'm
end.
not gonna get the name of it, but it's a story about a Polish boxer that comes up through the ranks and does his thing.
Nice.
Last good movie that you watched?
Last good movie that I watched. I will go Avengers Endgame.
I'm not. I fall asleep through them.
There you go. No good movie. Go ahead.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Guess that's another movie one.
Yeah, Marvel.
Marvel. Okay.
I'll go with that.
Pool or beach?
Beach. Now that I live in Hermosa, the beaches I lived in were dumps, man. I was pool until I moved here. Are you a pool guy?
No, I'm a beach guy.
All right.
I love the water.
Go ahead.
Let's see. Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Lord of the Rings. It's good. Harry Potter. Garbage.
I'm not going to even go with
Thank
that.
you.
That's
Rude. Harry Potter. Bourbon, vodka, or tequila?
Oh, vodka. I'm a Brooklyn guy.
I'm a bourbon.
Favorite sport outside of volleyball?
Mixed martial arts. I'm a big UFC and Bellator fan.
Golf.
Excellent.
Favorite action film star growing up?
Arnold.
It's a good one.
I do like Bruce Willis too. I mean, Die Hard it's such a romantic character.
Those are just you guys are too good with all that. Just to go and remember, there's too many. Harrison Ford.
My man. There you go.
Okay, last one. Any favorite conspiracy rabbit holes to
If
go
he
down?
skipped all the rest of those, he's skipping that one. I'll go JFK assassination. Ex-military. I don't think Oswald made that shot.
Oh, that's a good one. But the politics today.
Basically, every time we listen to the news, my man. So you got it. Cool. So Randy, before we get out of here, and we should definitely do this again because I always feel like this is unfinished. Right? It feels so short. It's unfinished business. But I got a hard stop for coaching, and I think this one's got to walk some dogs because she's making real money, unlike you and me. She's walking them dogs. So any particular site? Anyone want to know what you've been up to? Any kind of Facebook handle? YouTube is just under your name.
Yeah, it's just under my name. I try to go and post pictures of the past and try to bring things that people haven't seen before and maybe jump into a conversation here or there. But I've been obviously jumping into a bunch of different telecasts and the podcast along with yourself and yourself actually helping me to participate in some of these events, and so fun to not only give back to the sport but let them listen to kind of
do you know how much that meant to so many of them?
Different thought. Yeah,
they
it
just
does.
Grow up watching you, and sometimes and sometimes you don't know. You like leave a little bit, and you're like, no one here knows me, and you're like, everyone freaking knows, and that's ridiculous, and that's great. Rod Schneider says thanks, Randy. Tim says thanks. Indy says thank you. It was great to hear the stories and insight. Just a whole bunch of people saying hi to you, my boy Ken Basserath, all of these guys on Old School. Thank you guys for participating and watching the whole thing. We only really meant to do 20 minutes, but I was like, if it's still running and nothing happened. So for all of you at home, Randy might love you, but I don't love any of you guys. In fact, I can't stand you. In fact, we're out of here. It's hot as hell in this place. So, for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPads, for all of you on your desktop, who runs the world? Old school, baby. Old school. For my man, Randy Stoklos. For my tech person, Miranda, I am so glad to have you back. It's been miserable without you. I'm Jason DeBiss. This is episode 200 of the Option Podcast, and we are out of here.
What's up, brother? Congrats on episode 200. A lot of East Coast love. Best volleyball podcast out there. Yeah, man. Congrats. Keep it rolling.
Congratulations on your 200th episode. So happy for you, and cheers to many, many more.
Hey, what's up, man? It's Dive. Congrats on the 200th episode. That's crazy you've done that many, and, cheers to 200 more. Let's get it.
Jason, 200 episodes? Oh my God, congrats, man. It was a pleasure being on episode 101 with you, and now to 400, 600, 800, 1,000. Keep going, man. Congrats.
Congratulations, Jason. 200 episodes. It's amazing. Keep going. Let's strive for 500.
Morning, Jay. Just want to say congrats on 200 episodes. It's amazing, man. Keep up the good work, man. Really proud of you.
Hey, Jason. No one I'd rather talk volleyball and current events with than you. Congratulations on your 200th episode of the Option Podcast. Love you.
Jason, congratulations on your 200th telecast. Awesome time. Awesome being with you, and I feel really, really special being in that position, number 200. Congratulations.